Good evening and welcome to another show. I'm glad everyone's making it in before I'm even on the screen. I've got viewers in there talking away. It's brilliant. Welcome to episode 12 of Easy 8's Online Painting Club. My name's Danny. It says it down here somewhere. Yeah, somewhere down there. And this is your one-stop shop for inspiration and motivation for painting your great armies and miniatures. If you are new to the Online Painting Club today, then please head on over to the subscribe button so that you can, be a part of our show on a regular basis. Hit the little bell icon so that you don't miss an update. Our shows go out every week on the schedule all the time, but we might chuck in something else, or you might be busy and you're doing something else and you forget about it. But come along anyway. So we've got Kesslin in the chat. We don't always get to see Kesslin, but yeah, you get to watch it live tonight. Yes, you do. Kyle is with me this evening, and he is saying hopefully it'll be a smooth show to watch tonight. Luke says hopefully. Adrian says good evening all. Wow, you guys are all in there. You can hear Kyle in the background. Do you know what? Let's just get Kyle in here straight away. Where is he? Here he goes. I'll grab him and I'll pull him in. Oh, cheesy. Here he is. So this week we are dedicating this evening to making this show better than last week because oh man, it was just a nightmare last week. So humble apologies to everybody. Why did it go so badly? Because my laptop is not good enough for running broadcasts on. I should probably be doing it on a better computer. It's a good laptop, but I just don't think it could handle the amount of pressure that I was putting on it. We tried to do Twitch TV. I've had to pull the plug on Twitch, so I'm really sorry about that. I also tried a virtual webcam so Kyle could see me live, and I think it was just a bit too much strain. That may be bandwidth being taken up. I've said that so many times now, but all I can do is apologise. So tonight we're just focusing on good quality content and having a blast. So yeah, over the disasters of last week, let's have a good evening. Kyle, how have you been, mate?
Yeah, I've been really good, thank you. After last week saying, God, I really need to cut some time out to get a bit more hobbying done. I'd love to bring a bit more to the show, have some stuff ready to paint. But our rescue dog turned up from Romania, so we've had a very nervous puppy with us this week. So the little bits of time I have had have gone into that, which has been fantastic, and it's been lovely. But
But it's nice to have a new member of the family, right? Someone to chew your brushes for you.
Yeah,
nice
exactly.
dog. A rescue dog, yes?
Yes, yeah, rescued. So she's super nervous, but absolutely lovely.
Always go adopting, never go shopping. Always. Yeah, it's a really worthy cause. Well, I hope she brings many years of happiness. Cool. Well, so you told me just literally before we went live, you're only painting one model tonight. Tell me what it is that you're painting.
It is the Sergeant from that I spoke about last week, that I sort of asked some questions about what should I go loadout wise. I did get the chance to finish the second 5-man squad of intercessors that I started last week, so I thought, you know what, take my time, hit this Sergeant, give him a little bit more detail, maybe try maybe another technique or two, especially on the weapons, so I can give that a bit more time.
You could try and put like a bit more focus in to make him stand out a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly that. And then if I get that done, or I look like I'm going to get that done quite quickly at the interlude, I will go and pick up the other intercessors I've done, because I just want to go over a little bit more red. I just noticed, because my lighting's bad in the evenings, that they could do just a little touch up in just some of the more lighter areas. Just give it a bit more colour, so I might get that done in a second.
From what I saw, because a couple of weeks ago we showed your work as a part of Community Spotlight, didn't we? And I just thought they were fantastic. So maybe, I don't know if it's the lighting that you're sat in that maybe does it to your eye, but from what I saw, they looked really cool.
The suppressors came out beautifully, and that's where I want the intercessors to go to. And I noticed that the intercessors just a touch darker than the suppressors. So I think they just need maybe one more dry brush, the orange, just to pick out a little bit more light, and it should go quite nicely, I think.
Excellent. Oh well, I'm looking forward to it. So units completed. We've got more people going into the live chat, Kyle. We've got Jeff Lacey. Oi oi, good evening. We've got Dave Lester. Evening all. Jeff says that last week was funny. Well, at least it was that.
Great fun.
The worst thing about last week is that we saved it with the coolest sign off, and it cut it out. Yeah. I was absolutely mortified. If we were going to pull anything out of last week's dire show, it was your sign off, and it went no.
Yeah, we finished that show so happy, lots of energy. We were both chatting about it, and then all you lovely people messaged us like, you guys just cut out. And we were like, no, we thought we'd saved it with a great ending.
Yeah, man.
So you guys really missed out. It was fantastic. Imagine it was the best sign-off it could have been. Double it, that was it. And you missed it.
And you're still not there. It was that cool.
Yeah.
And Jeanette Dean, evening. I've come to join you tonight. Hi, Jeanette. You're always present there, but maybe you don't always watch us. But I'm sure I always see you in the chats. But hey, thanks for coming along tonight. Excellent. The more the merrier.
And from Twitch.
yeah, because of course you were on Twitch last week, weren't you? I'm so sorry about that. But hey, it's one of those things. Maybe that is the gods of broadcasting telling us to just rein it back in a little bit because we're doing all right. Did you know that we've got 23 subscribers on YouTube at the moment, which I think is really good? And we've also got, just before we went live, I think we were just at 300 hours watch time, which is great. That means that people are engaging because I haven't made 300 hours worth of stuff. So yeah, that means that we're putting out the right content to the right people. And I'm really happy about that. If there's anything that you'd like to see from us, then drop it in the live chat, drop it in the comments in the discussion, or just go over to Facebook. I've got a list of our different addresses here somewhere. Here it is. Ooh, there you go. So you can get us on YouTube. You're here. Well done. You can get us on Facebook, and you can also get us on Instagram as well. Obviously, Twitch and Twitter are available out there, but they're not really platforms that I'm pushing for at the moment. So don't worry, don't fret. There's no need for it. You don't need to worry about it. So yeah, that's us. I've got a lot of stuff going on the screen there. There we go. So I'll put that all away. And I was also talking to a friend just before we went live, just earlier on today, and she has taken up canvas painting as a hobby because, you know, loads of time, British lockdown, so on and so forth. She's got a couple of kids. They're really easy to handle during the times because the kids are just well behaved. It makes life a little bit easier. So she decided that she was going to just kind of take up a new hobby and do something, and it's going to come along to our future shows, not because that we do canvas painting, but because it's just about motivation. We talk a lot about products and, you know, techniques and equipment and things, and it might just be useful, and it might also just be nice that while you're painting away, just to have that kind of background company, the live chat, the community kind of talking around, and it just, you know, they might be able to bring some, you know, information to us as well, which would be really cool, but not tonight because they've had to go to work. So that's the way lockdown's really driving the British public at the moment. Jeanette says, I can hear it via Adrian's iPad normally, obviously because Adrian is your husband. Brilliant. So there's some things I want to talk about this evening. We'll get more into it as we go on. I'm going to take you over to the workbench right now, but if there's anything that you want to discuss on the way, then, you know, take us for a walk. Let's go to the workbench. Here we are.
I was just going to say a couple of things there. Number one, I'm always fascinated by sort of artists painting on canvas or any sort of medium like that, because I struggle with models and the detail's already there, and I just kind of have to pick it out, rather than just go from scratch using your own imagination and the skill that goes into it. And then secondly, because of the delay that I watch on, I kind of see myself about 20 seconds away, and I have to apologise for my terrible concentration time. It is something that people pick out all the time about me, but I can't help it. And with painting, I notice out goes the tongue, so I apologise.
One of the things
will be there.
One of the things that you really find when you start doing videos, especially with live broadcasting, because it's live and you can't take it back, is you start to identify all of your idiosyncrasies. I don't even know if I said that right. I'll find out on playback, I suppose. But I did this a lot in the earlier episodes. Why am I doing that? Why is that a function? What am I trying to achieve?
I've never done that in my whole life. Why am I doing it now?
Yeah. So you spot all these things. If it's not really that bad, don't worry. So tonight, Kyle, I am, as you might just be able to see now, I am still painting my zone throat. So I've had a week of doing other things. Like you said, you've had a dog. I haven't got a dog, but I've just been concentrating on some other factors in my life this week. So I'm a little bit behind. This is the last week that I'm going to do on these zone throats. I think I'm going to do some other work next week, but I will carry on with them in the background. But what I'm doing at the moment, I'll show you my other almost finished zones rope, is I'm just kind of doing the carapaces on them. Now I've been keeping you updated, and I've also been keeping our followers up on Facebook updated as well. with my progress on the edge highlighting, and I think I've hit a sweet spot. I know what I'm going to be doing, so you'll see it in about 20 seconds, but here is my zoanthrope. It is almost finished. Just before going live, I came down a little bit earlier into the studio and I was just doing a little bit of yellow highlighting, not a massive amount, but because I did what I think is colloquially known as a sludge wash, which is where you just slap those washes all over them, I lost a lot of the detail and a lot of the vibrance of the yellow. So just a couple of places, just here down on the tail, I've brought a couple of lines back out on the yellow, and it's really set it back off again. And there was quite a bit on the chin, especially on this one here. The chin on this one is just where it's kind of all oozed and dripped and collected. But as you can see all over the carapace, especially on the head, I've kind of got this almost cartoony, as my housemate puts it, kind of pop-up style carapacing. I didn't want it to be that contrasting, but I really like it. And I was starting to fret a little bit about how can I get that contrast back. I've got some techniques in mind. I'm not going to do them on the other two zoanthropes in this squad because I want them to kind of match closer together. But in future units, bigger creatures, especially with lots of carapace, I'm just going to add another layer in of the mid-grey that I started with. Because I put known oil over it, it's kind of dyed it down. So when the light grey goes on top, it really pops. So I'm going to do more lines. Why am I doing it to myself? I don't know. But on those bigger creatures, I think it will really look really cool. So you'll have two sets of edge highlighting in progressive layers of brightness, I suppose. But it looks really, really cool. It took me a really long time. It took me all week of a couple of hours every day, just doing some sessions on it. But I really, really like it. And it almost, in some places, especially on these stacks on the back here, it looks almost like those sort of tribal tattoos that were very indicative of the early 2000s. I'm really into it. I think it's really cool. Not those tattoos, they were awful. If you've got them, that's your choice. They're not for tyranids. However, I'm trying to build up my pace as I do it. It's been a few days since I've had the brush in my hand, so I'm a little bit out of touch today. So I'm just going to go through. I'm just, taking my time tonight, just getting these carapaces done, and I think they look really cool. I am going to do a bit of work on the base later on because there's something that I want to I thought I'd bring to the community about one of the products that I use. Got some more comments going in there. Nice shot of your hair there. Is that because my hair goes in front of the the camera?
Yes, it does.
Yeah,
I was just waiting for a moment to jump in there, Danny.
Really sorry about that. It happens every week. The camera's in a slightly different position. Other weeks it catches my hair more. I was watching some other painters on Twitch, and it's a really common thing, so I don't feel that bad about it. Get your head out of the way of the camera. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the other ones, Danny, that's coming in. It's just that apparently I'm coming across quite quiet because of the music.
Oh, okay, cool. I was playing around with the levels earlier on. The broadcasting software limits the music for me, so your voice sounds quite loud over the top. So what I will do is I will bring the volume of the music down. There we go.
And we'll see if that helps. Has that helped at home?
Hopefully.
On a postcard.
By the way, music is a little bit loud when Kyle speaks. Can't hear him all that clearly. There we go.
Right, hopefully that's better because I've got lots of important things to say.
He's a very important individual.
And tonight's, just to put it in there, a lot of tonight's painting will be sponsored by the Lacey Senior as I take the dry brushes for their first spin. Which I'm looking forward to. So,
if you were happy, Kyle, about receiving brushes from Purple Lion Creations, you're going to be super happy about the fact that he has recently sent you a T34 in 15mm. I say recently, it was in the post this afternoon.
Oh my gosh, that will be the focus of the next probably couple of weeks of painting club for me. That'll be fun. You'll get to see it painted live, which will be fantastic. We'll see how we go.
I've also got, I'll show you in a minute because I've got a box of them beside me. They're not the Flames of War tanks that I was doing in the past. Those little 15mm tanks that I've done previously. It's not the same company. This is a Russian company called Zvezda. They are the only company that does 15mm Tiger 2, I think it is. And they're really good quality miniatures. So what I'll do is next week, perhaps, if you're going to get your little 50mm tank out, perhaps I'll get one out as well, and we'll do some stuff together.
You can do it by numbers as well.
Yeah.
Talk through
I've got
some good techniques for them, especially with the change in scale and.
I don't have any Soviet colours, and the T-34, as we know, is a Soviet tank. And I do like my Second World War stuff to be accurate in terms of the right colours. If I can get hold of some Soviet colours before next show, then I will more than happily do a Soviet tank with you, and I can kind of guide you through the process and tell you what paints you need to get and things to do it. If not, then I'll just do one that I already have the colours for, and I'll just kind of help you through your Soviet tank. And then when we're actually allowed to have friends again, Kyle, we can have a few games of things like water tanker and tanks and flames of war, etc. That'd be really nice.
Yeah, I love it. Have to dust off your uni notes on tanks, make sure I'm being accurate.
Yeah, right. So if you want to know what Kyle's talking about, go back to previous episodes where Kyle tells the world why tanks are rubbish.
It's nice to have a platform to do it, so I don't have to tell each person individually, which has been.
If it comes up in conversation, then you can just go, "I'll go and watch this YouTube channel. Come back to me when you're done."
So much of my life has been spent educating people on on tanks, and I just don't need to do it now. All this free time, I love it. If we're allowed to, go and talk to people, that is.
Yeah.
That's the time I'd be saving.
Don't even get me started. So if you want to see certain things being painted, because this show is all about getting through your stock of stuff that you need to get painted, I've got my stuff to get done as well. But that doesn't mean that you have to sit there and watch me painting a specific thing all the time. This isn't just about Citadel Miniatures and Games Workshop games and things like that. As we've already said, we play lots of other games. And I have miniatures for lots of different games and just some cool stuff as well that I'm quite happy to just swap and change and paint. You obviously have to sit there and watch me paint it. So if you want to have a bit of input on that, then please by all means do. Head on over to our Facebook page, Easy 8 Painting Club on Facebook. And I recently put a post up there. I had to change it halfway through the day because the original post wasn't working very well. I've had a few technical issues today. And it just says what I've got waiting in the sidelines to be painted. And basically the object with the most votes will get the next showing. If next week I'm going to do a 15mm tank, I will promise I will do it for episode 14. So next week we'll do a little bit of 15mm tanks, and then the week after we've already had 2 votes in there. We've had a vote for Second World War armour vehicles of any description, because Jeanette, who is watching us, she says the levels are now better. There you go. She says that her daughter is studying Second World War at school, so it's just a nice thing to be able to kind of watch the show along with, and we can talk about it. And I do know a little bit about the Second World War. Some areas maybe I'm wrong and you can teach me, but you might learn something, I might learn something from it, and if Carl, you're a part of it, you certainly know a lot, so it'll be really cool and educational, and that's a really good way to go with the show, I think, is to kind of learn some stuff at the same time.
Oh, I don't know about that. Oh, that's a lot for a Friday afternoon. No,
the responsibilities are big.
Yeah. This is my time off.
Yeah. So, Kyle, normally you argue with me that I've taken your chance to say cool stuff in the show, and this week you haven't said it, but I'm waiting for it.
There's a right time, Danny.
Okay.
Yeah.
We don't have a director or a producer telling us when to do stuff.
What people painting this evening? It has the tower being completed. What's it called again? That Adrian's painting.
The Fortress of Redemption.
Oh, the Fortress of Redemption. That could literally be a one-person, real-life fortress by the look of it. Like, I could hide behind that if I needed to.
It is huge.
Oh no, that's not great to hear from Jeanette and Adrian that you've already had to correct teachers.
Yeah. Jeanette was saying earlier on Facebook that sometimes the teachers are teaching the kids something and they've had to go in and go like, actually, X, Y, Z.
But
you can't know everything all the time, right? You can't know everything, and it's important to be corrected and to be humble and acknowledge that and go, you're right. And something that I picked up from another YouTuber called Lindy Beige, I haven't written it in the description, wasn't expecting him to bring it up, but I will put it in the description after the show. Just does videos on whatever he wants, wherever he wants, and he's typically very British, and everyone knows at least one person is British as a gentleman, and he really knows his stuff, of the stuff that he talks about, and he's really into tanks, especially from the Second World War. Yeah, and he basically said in one of his videos that when he is wrong, he pauses it, re-edits over the top, and then explains why he's wrong, but he leaves it in because you learn more from listening to people get it wrong and then correcting themselves. And I'm like, wow, that's really valuable. It's a really valuable thing to do. And he's right, because here I am talking about it.
It's one of
Lindy
the
Beige
techniques you're actually taught as a teacher. Is to, number one, if you make a mistake, use it as a learning opportunity, because it's always fantastic. Because people feel empowered when they do challenge and find out they're corrected, and that helps things to stick in memory banks. But also, plan in mistakes. See if people are listening. Are they switched on? And again, you get that same kind of sort of reinforcement of that learning when they get to correct the person who's meant to know everything. It's a fantastic tool. Just going off topic, talking nothing about painting there, but yeah.
Maybe that's what those teachers were doing.
I doubt it.
If those teachers are watching, sorry. So, my brush here, the reason it's taking me so long just to do the front end of this bit of carapace here, look at the state of my brush. It is slowly starting to die, and I can get it to hold a really good shape until I put it on the model. And I just think that inside the ferrule, just underneath the belly of the bristles in there, it's just starting to clog up with some old paint because I haven't cleaned it out. I do abuse my brushes a little bit, and it's a real struggle now to really get it to hold its shape. There we go. Now, if I kind of just squish it in my mouth, it's got a really nice point to it. That's what it should look like. This isn't a detail brush. This is what Games Workshop call a layer brush, and it is for doing base layers on just smaller models. Anything up to about the size that I've got here. It's probably a bit too big, really, the Zone Throat, but I used it as a detail brush back in my era of judgment, when I used to think that a smaller brush was what you needed for smaller details. That is not the truth. What you need is a bigger brush with a small tip. So recently, yesterday, I spent nearly £100 on some new stuff, and I have my shopping list here, Kyle, and I thought that you might want to hear what I've got, what I've bought. Some very exciting things.
But yes, love to hear the rundown.
Because times are trying, I had to get permission, but it was all justified. Yeah. Okay, cool. Let me just go through, because I forgot to bring my notepad down, but I do have it on my phone here, which is always beside me. He says so, but I can't find it now.
So, great.
Yeah, here we go. So I've got a couple of new brushes. Yeah, I got a couple of new brushes. So I've got one from Army Painter. They do synthetic arranged brushes, which are a bit cheaper, and they do sable brushes, which are better quality, a little bit more expensive. And they do one called the Regiment brush, and it's a little bit bigger than this one here, and it's a really good mule of a brush. Like, it's really good for just getting a lot of the base work done, and you can do a small amount of details with it, going down to almost the smallest of details. And it's the one that you see a lot of YouTubers using, the Regiment brush, and a lot of places it was out of stock. I was going to get a lot of my stuff from Just Play, one of the groups that we talk about a lot here on this show, but it's one of the few brushes that's out of stock, so I got it from another supplier. I will talk about the suppliers next week when all the stuff arrives. And I also got a really expensive Raphael Kalinsky brush. So Kalinsky is a type of sable, and Raphael is the French manufacturer. And it was a toss-up between Raphael or Winsor Newton. And after watching a lot of reviews and reading a lot of stuff about it, I decided to go with Raphael. It was a £17 brush. And it's got quite a large belly on it, but it goes down to a really, really fine detail point. So you can do a lot of heavier work with it, but you can go down and do eyes with it as well. And that's a real part of my development as a painter. I'm trying to push myself. I understand that maybe I might destroy that brush in a good time, but one of the other things that I bought is some brush cleaner. Now, I wanted to do something different. I didn't want to go just for soap. like a lot of people suggested in the comments here some episodes ago. But I've got some cleaner from Green Stuff World to go along with this product here, which Carl, you'll see in about 20 seconds. This is a brush repair gel, which is the substance that manufacturers use to get the point on the brush when it goes out of their factory. So when you get your brush and it's got like a good shape and a point to it, etc., and you go, that's a nice one, and you kind of rinse it off in water and it's good to go. This is basically a gel that kind of, it's almost like a wax when it dries, and it just allows you to clean your brush, and at the end of your painting session, put a tiny little drop of this in the palm of your hand and just kind of, and you just get that fine point and shape back again. So I wanted to use this stuff with the Green Stuff World cleaner, which also comes in a bottle. And you never know, I might be able to save my Citadel Artificer layer brush, which is what I'm hoping. I might be able to save a few of my brushes. I've got some Crackle medium, which is the medium that makes paint go crackly. I use a lot of it here. I just happened to notice that it was a thing. I was like, yeah, why not? Add to cart. It was like £2. That's from Vallejo, which is a brand that I respect and trust. So we'll pull that out later on and have a go with that another episode. I also got some resin water effects, which I've been wanting to have a go for a while, and some splash effects too, because I do a lot of acid pool bases on my Tyranids. And I've got a UV torch. Unfortunately, the Games Workshop, the Green Stuff World UV torch is out of stock in almost every platform, so I had to go onto Amazon and I bought one really cheap in a pair. So I've got two. So if I want to do some two-handed UV mojo, brilliant. I've got some primers, and I also got some fluorescent paints. So
when you said, I'm looking at some fluorescent paints,
yeah.
Just ideas for that.
It's because during the week, a couple of weeks ago, someone sent me a picture of someone's lava bases, and it was done with what I think is fluorescent paints. It's like, I have got to have a go at that, and it means that I can open up another video, I can do some more product reviews, I can do some, not tutorials, I don't want to really roll that way, but here's me having a go, learn from me making mistakes or getting it right, perhaps, who knows. But I just thought it would be really fun to play around with them. And I've also got some ink for my airbrush, which is a solution to my non-oil problem, and that came to £96.50, sir. So I'm very happy with my order there, and I did forget to get myself some red grass tufts because I want to do some red grass, so I will probably get some in the future. So yeah, that's my list, that's my brush problem. For now, I'm moving over to this Pro Art Sable brush, which is a little bit too thin for doing a lot of the work that I do, but while this one's been meeting its demise, this one has picked up the slack a lot, so that's where that conversation came from. What have we got going into the comments now?
I was just going to say, we've had a really good chat going on in the comments, which is always lush to see. Adrian is just having a little break from the tower, because I can see why. That's a big project.
Because it is a building, right?
All in one. I think, what was it? Some Angels of Blood, Victorians.
Nice.
Very nice. I think he's got 8 armies on the go. Apparently, maybe 2. Maybe. Dave Lester has just got the 1 on the go. And that's what I'm doing. I've got some other ideas. I've got some kits somewhere else with some Imperial Guard I want to do some conversions on, but I'm liking the idea of trying to focus on one, and for the first time ever actually having some painted armies. I think we'll get there. Jeff giving me some great advice, saying a mid-green from Citadel would work really well with the Russian tank, and then white stripes on the turret.
There you go.
Just dirt and grime up. It was actually something I just found it up as well. Some recommendations about how to tackle the Soviet tank. So people are reading my mind. It's beautiful. Thanks for that, Jeff. And I think I might have some green, so I'll have a little look at the test and just see how they come out against what it should look like. Hopefully I've got one there. Oh no, Jeanette said the music's not loud enough.
Oh, that's really peculiar. Yeah.
Thanks, and again, really appreciate those comments.
Yeah, let us know. I will bring the music level down. That's really weird. This is one of those things that I was telling Kyle about just before the show, is that the software that I use, the settings just change. Don't really know why. I'll bring it down again. There we are in the background. To me, it sounds absolutely perfect. The levels are all balanced, but I watch it back on the playback and I do a couple of test videos before we go live earlier in the day, and then like certain things are really, really loud, so I just have to try and find some middle ground between what I think is correct and what you guys like. So yeah, just let me know.
Nice. It's just nice seeing the comments coming in. I know me and Danny have talked about this before. Like, I really enjoy the comment side of what we do, and just having you guys at home, just having a chat, even if it's just with each other and things, because that's the whole point of this. I know we've banged on about it, but it's a community for everyone, and just
it's a painting club,
sharing, right? Sharing the hobby, whatever the hobby is.
Imagine just going to your local painting club. That's what we're trying to do here.
And hopefully some people are getting some paint on some models as we do it. As a Brucey bonus.
That's exactly it, mate. That's exactly it. Struggling to get the level of standard that I've had in my previous zones over here. Oh, there we go. Straight back in. The
difference. The standard in painting you feel is going down, but the production is better. So
yeah,
it's
maybe.
Balance.
Maybe it's being drawn away from one.
It's looking good though, dude.
It's nice, isn't it?
The colours underneath the original grey going on to change to add like the subtler highlights. So having sort of a white highlight underneath before the grey goes on.
Yeah, I could do some like zenithal highlighting or like primer highlighting. I could certainly do that with the airbrush. I do prime these white because I use a lot of yellow. So it's just the sensible thing to do. But the ink is a technique that I spotted on one of the Facebook groups that I frequent, and this gentleman painted the Nexocrine, which is a big gun beast, like the size of a tank, Tyrannid, and it has like a huge. It's basically like the Biovore but times 10, and it has like these massive cannons on its back, and it's a really cool looking model if you're into that sort of nerdy stuff. And though the colour of the
everyone listening, Danny, is here because they're
it's because of the nerdy stuff. Maybe someone's tuning in and what's this all about? Not for me, thank you very much.
The right time just to know it's not for me.
Yeah.
Not for that comment.
But the skin was a different colour to what I do with my Tyrannids, but the carapace was absolutely exactly what I had in my mind. And I asked him how did he do it, and he said that he uses these inks by Ammo MIG, which is another brand that's out there, and they're designed just for the airbrush, and you put the pressure right down, and you just gradually, almost so you can't see it, and you just kind of work it on bit by bit, and build it up, and it just becomes more and more intense, and it's really easy to control, and it doesn't run around, it kind of adheres, but you have a bit of time to play around with it. I'm like, that is absolutely the project that I need to have a play around with. So that's the ink that I bought, so that will allow me to run it into all the spaces between all the carapace links here, and hopefully give me some good results.
I've just had a real nice comment as well come through from Jeff, just asking about what I'm going to do with my bases, and I think I'm just going to bite the bullet and order. There's just a really nice bluey green, like grass, like tuft grass, which I think I'm going to go with, and I'm going to order some of these crystals. They come in either blue or green, I think. So I was thinking about potentially getting the blue, roughing them up ever so slightly, and applying some inks to them. Maybe a
nice.
Green, maybe what did I say? Yeah, I'd get the blue ones and then maybe apply green ink. Just try and get some colour difference. Try and maybe add some sort of glowy kind of effect to them, or at least a bit more depth, because they're all just kind of one block colour.
They are when they come out. So that's the thing about it. It's the same sort of effect that you get on the Necron weapons in those kits. It is a coloured but transparent plastic, so it is just one colour all the way through, and it's a very quick and simple effect, but you can do things to it to make it different.
Yeah, and you get a good bag of, I think you get like 50 in a bag. So
oh really?
I'm quite happy to like just experiment and just kind of
just play around with them.
Ideas and what I can do with them. And again, I might do that in the next couple of weeks actually, if I can order them in, because it'd be great to kind of show you how it's going and take on some advice as we're doing it. I know we've got lots of experience in the chat as well, so people can kind of chip in with any kind of ideas or suggestions about where to go. My only struggle is, what do I do about the actual base? Is it going to be sand? Is it going to be like a stony, like rock barren?
Could you do like just a weird synth coloured sand? So you put some sand base down and just paint it some sort of weird colour that reflects your feelings from the color wheel, perhaps. So
Yeah.
like a blue
Be
sand
a darker
yeah.
blue green, and then you've got a bit more of that vibrant. See in the
There has to be
bush and
no
the
reason
crystals.
for it. It's just about the color balance, like you're saying,
Yeah, no, I
and
really
to
like
represent the the alien nature of the planet they're supposed to be on.
Yeah, I might, and because I say I've got some assault marines that are going to be my tester for my sanguinary guard when I get around to them anyway, so I can play around with the basing, kind of putting all that together on them and just see how they go. Yeah, it's quite a nice idea.
I'm starting to pick it up now. Starting to pick that pace up. Here we go. Trying to not be so mechanical with it, because the tendency is that you can just get these very machined-looking lines, and of course, these are the furthest thing from machines. So
they're not machines. Yeah, I get that.
That's exactly what Tyrannus means in Latin. It's not. If there's anyone out there learning today, it's not it. So we're talking about bases. On the Facebook page, just a few hours ago, Kesslin put up some photos of the work that she's been doing on a BattleTech miniatures. And do you remember a few episodes ago, so it was deciding, different greys and yellows to use on the half and half of the miniatures, has put up these new miniatures that she's finished painting, and the results are absolutely cracking. They are really, really good. When you say like half and half grey and yellow, the colours are really vibrant. It's exactly what you're thinking it's going to look like, and it's a job well done. But black bases. So I questioned. I said, "Are you going to leave the bases as they are?" And she said, "Yeah, I'm just going to leave them black." So there's an example of doing something that I'm uncomfortable with, because I'm all about paint the bases. Paint, even if you're going to leave them black, paint them. But Kessler's just like, "No, I'm just going to leave them." I'm like, "Okay, cool."
Sorry, Lucia said he's got a load of sawdust scatter that I can use for testing. So I might task Luke, if that's all right, who, I don't know if people have picked up, is my brother, so please don't feel like I'm just making listeners do things for me.
Yeah.
Luke, do this is your experiment now. Yeah, if you get a chance and just happen to have some blues or greens lying around, just to kind of see how it looks, or you can send it up and I'll have a little play. That's not a drama. But yeah, great idea. Thanks, dude. That would be sweet. This is going to feel like a real community army by the time I get it on the table.
It's
like,
good, yeah.
Advice and things I've got from people is going to be fantastic. So hopefully when we all get together and have that first tournament, so people are going to feel
Wouldn't
like
it be brilliant if we could all get together, even people, I mean, across the world, yeah, that's probably not going to happen, but across the country, if you're everywhere, get everyone together and just bring a couple of units and we'll just have a big battle together. That'd be nice as a way of kind of celebrating Easy 8's progress through the lockdown. That'd be great. Luke actually put up on Facebook the progress with his Sisters of Battle. They're looking really good, and because they're in white armor, decided that he was going to paint brickwork with really dark tones on the bases to really make that white armor pop, and it does. It's really good. Like white is hard to work with that. Adrian's put, "I've had to repaint my bases back to black. Too many other colours up on my bases." Yeah, fair enough. Sometimes you just got to bring it back to basics. Go with what you're comfortable with. It's your model at the end of the day. Don't let me tell you what to do. Like if I say don't paint your, or you should paint your bases, you don't want to. You do what you want. It's your thing, man.
I've always heard it described as the rule of cool. Whatever you think is cool, you get to do. It's that simple. Your model,
that's the same with taking forces in your armies as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and especially, we talk about it every week, and we had another chat just before we came on air, I know, with the Crusade idea. But the things I'm reading in the community at the moment are fantastic about just going back to that narrative style play, and just people going, "Oh, shall I take this in my Crusade force? Is it good enough?" And it's like a resounding, "Do you like it? Is it cool? Does it fit your narrative? Then do it." Because that's what everybody should be doing in the group. And if you're having people turn up that kind of min-max in power gamers, just having that conversation with them, just being like, look, this isn't what we're about here. But I'm happy to have that game with you, but it's a separate game. If you want to kind of go with that more perfectly competitive.
Yeah, there's a whole separate section in the rulebook for you.
Yeah, actually sorry, just looking at Jeff's other comment there about the crackle bases. That's kind of what I was thinking, because it would be nice to add that texture as well and start to play around with texture a little bit and give it that natural. They're growing crystals that are pushed out of the ground.
Cool.
Yeah,
that's a nice idea. I've got a couple of substances here that I'm going to do maybe after the interval, because time's pressing on. I'm really getting into this carapace now, but I do want to do a little bit. I'll show you again, Kai, you're going to see delayed, but on the base I've done on this zone thrope here, crackle base, I like to use a couple of different features on there to mix it all up. Sometimes I put rocks on there. I've got some Agrellan earth, which is basically a texture paint, so it looks like sort of dry mud, if you like, and I just like to have it on there to kind of break it up a little bit. But I've also got crackle paint. I did crackle paint all over the Bible base and it worked really well, but I've made some errors on here, and basically the cracks are just too big for my tastes, and I haven't based underneath like the undercolor properly, and it looks appalling to my mind. But I'm going to go over that a little bit later this afternoon and show you how I'm going to repair that. I'm going to destroy it. So yeah, what we'll do is we'll do a little bit more on crackle paint this evening. I've also got a crackle paint medium coming in the next couple of days, and next week I'll do a product review video on it separately as well, but I'll also do a little bit during the show as well, so we can talk about crackle paint.
Nice. Because as we said before, I think last week as well, basing is a whole new thing, and I do want to get it right, putting the effort in, and like I say, I think it will tie everything together nicely.
Yeah, for me it's about, like I say every time, it's about telling story. We're narrative players. We've got a background for why we play this particular unit, army, or whatever. Tell the story. Why,
Oh, tell I'm concentrating. I can't multitask. Multitasking has never been a strong point. Oh.
It's the same here, mate. Everyone's concentrating, so it goes really quiet. But that's okay, because we're here to get stuff done. We can talk until, the cows come home. But take your time, right? It's all really easy to just want to get it done, and at the end of it, you might not be happy with the quality of the work that you've done. Our viewer count is going through the roof, by the way.
Yeah.
It's nice to see it. Welcome to the show. If you're new here, perhaps consider going over to subscribe. Every little bit helps us and be a part of our little community that we are making for ourselves over here. Come and join in the show. Bring your unpainted or unfinished miniatures and get them finished. Yeah.
One of the things you said there, Danny, really kind of sparked something I've been thinking about recently as well, is that I'm trying to enjoy the painting as its own hobby, whereas before I've always seen it as something I had to do.
Yes. Because
I should have painted miniatures on the table. So I'm trying to enjoy the actual painting side of the hobby. So don't rush it. Take your time. Come back to things. Like, if I'm not sure, do what I can. Come back to it. Ask these, all of the guys we've got in the chat and community, do some research. But yeah, just start trying to actually enjoy sitting down, spending some time.
Something that really helps me, and you can do it in lots of different ways depending on what you're doing. If you're doing a bigger miniature, it's different than doing batch painting, which is like, say, like a squad of 10 or 15 or whatever. Is go into the mindset that this session, what you're going to do is just this one thing. So tonight, my concentration is just getting the carapace on this head done. It's a 2-hour show. I do a lot of talking, so that's a long time to get it done, but it's taken me all week to get that other one done. So I don't want to go like I'm going to get all the carapace done on the whole creature. That is unachievable. It's not unlikely, it's unachievable. I'm not going to get that done. So when you're going into your sessions going like, oh, I've got like these 10 marines to do, don't think that you're going to have 5 of them done by the end of the day. If you want them to be not maybe your best work, but if you want them to be good, then you're going to need to kind of program your time a little bit and go, okay, today I'm going to do just the armor up till washes. Because that means that you can get all the layers done, and then you can go and start doing staining. But staining in itself takes a long time, if you want to do it properly. If you're sludge washing, just chucking a Nuln Oil or a sepia tone on it, then it's going to take you minutes. But if you want to really kind of get it into where it needs to go, then it's going to take you a couple of hours on 5 miniatures. So be reasonable with the time it's going to take, and allow yourself to have the time that has been really helping me, and I'm at an age now where I want to develop, and like you're saying, I'm enjoying that.
So we've just got some. I feel really selfish here because the comments are being super helpful about my basing, and it's just making me want to talk about it more and more.
No, you go for it, man. The limelight is yours. I can be quiet and paint.
With the sand being sort of like a greenish blue, if the crystals are a greenish blue, I know exactly what you mean. And my first thought, if I was going to go that way, would be to have almost black sand with a little bit of the sand sort of highlighted, almost like a metallic-y blue-green. So you'd catch it at different angles, so it wasn't an entire blue-green sand.
What about having the sand change colour slightly where the crystals are breaking through?
Yeah, that was my second one. Or I could concentrate it around the sort of crystals to have more of that colour there, and then sort of the darker sand sort of fading out from it. It's like a very simple source lighting.
What you can do as well is paint the base like a bright turquoise colour, and you can do like variations on, so you can marble effect the base. So let's just say you want to do like purple and turquoise and just kind of make it look weird, and then you just cover the whole thing in crackle paint, and when that paint dries it recedes and it leaves in the middle the colours, like I was saying on this zone thrope here, where the colours are coming through. So what you'll do is you'll get a cracked effect, and then the colour will come through underneath.
Cool. Oh, so many ideas.
I know, right? And you've got to go for it and have a go, and then go like, I don't like this one, and then go back over it.
Just didn't like this bit, I'll put it with that bit.
And that's what the zone threat's being for me.
And then the last comment Adrian's just said as well, like, it's amazing how fast 2 hours go, and I think that every week. Like,
yeah.
It is crazy. We get to the.
I know why it goes too fast for me. It's because I talk a lot.
No, you don't, Danny.
It's a show. I've got to be active. Mellabrook. Hi, Mellabrook. Here he is. Best way to do project work is to do a little almost every day a week. You just have to start each session and it will become a habit. That's absolutely true. As you said, the best way to start is to tell yourself you're only doing a little bit and letting 2 hours pass. And then Jeff's followed that up with, it might be nice to see the contrast between the sandy base and a bright crystal ripping through. Yeah, I like that idea. It'd be really cool.
Yeah. That's where I was getting stuck on what to do with the crystals in the bushes, because I wanted to still contrast those colours, but I'd pick those colours to contrast against the red. So I think just going for like quite a base colour, so that's still a highlight. Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Games Workshop or Citadel Paints range, they do their crackle paints, and they've just released a new one. A little while ago they only did 2 colours, but they just released a black one as well, so great for doing lava. So if you want like to have that crusty sort of basalt look to your thing and then have the lava underneath it, so you can do black crackle without having to actually paint the crackle, if that makes any sense. Too much crackle in that. Where's all the pop?
I also want to say to Mellabrook's comment, it sounds like a great idea. It's not how I like to do projects. What I like to do is ignore them. The same goes with paperwork. Ignore them and then just make excuses to anyone that's trying to chase me for that paperwork. That is definitely a pointed comment directly at Mellabrook.
Mellabrook, Kyle and myself have all worked together. Yes.
There's lots of excuses you can find to not sit down and do the paperwork. My big one at that point was trying to sew wetsuits together, I believe was my go-to.
Yeah. Oh, the days, Kyle.
It sounded like a very important job. That's all it needed to sound.
Oh, it's raining horrendously outside. I'll crack on with that paperwork.
Yeah.
Oh, it's sunny outside. Oh, you need to do my paperwork for me.
Yeah, see ya. I'm super busy.
Cheers then. I'm really important outside.
Got lots of things. Oh, at the beach.
I'd love to tell you what I'm doing, but it's so important. I just got to get out there now.
You wouldn't understand.
No, you wouldn't. Don't worry yourself.
No, I think we've really cracked the base idea though this evening. I think.
Cracked the base. Come here to Easy 8 for more puns every week.
Seamless puns, seamless. Yeah, no, I think like that black crackle, maybe some colour in that crackle going up to the crystals would be, look real interesting.
So, one of the things I wanted to talk about this week, this seems like a natural point to kind of bring that to a bit of an end. One of the things I wanted to talk about this week is, because I've got a project where I'm probably going to do it, is magnetizing. Now, you know, Kyle, I've done a lot of magnetizing in the past, and I'm quite confident with my magnetizing because I play Space Marines and I play Tyranids, and the magnetizing that I've done has been on my Space Marines, where the models, frankly, are quite, what's the word, forgiving. Because they've got large spaces where you could basically just drill really big holes, fill them full of magnets, and then what you're magnetizing to it covers up the problems. I know that Mellabrook has been trying to magnetize Eldar models, and it's a very difficult process, although some jobs have been well done. Mellabrook, perhaps at some point during the week, if you can put photographs up of your jet bikes, that would be wonderful, because he has magnetized the weapons underneath, and they are actually now turreted, as where before they weren't, which is really cool. But it means that you can just choose your loadouts. Some of the models that I've got coming up, I've got some big Carnifexes. I've got 2 on the sprue waiting to go for about 15 years, maybe longer. But I'm really looking forward to kind of just getting those bad boys together. But they have, when the Carnifex model, that particular model, was released, it was at the point the most versatile model around, and it had over 10,000 different configurations or something stupid like that. So it has a lot of things that you can do to it, but because the Tyranids have so many different weapon options, etc., you can just go, oh, this Carnifex is going to have these massive talons, today's going to have this big gun, so I'm going to try and magnetize it. And I just wanted to get everyone's thoughts on magnetizing, because it ties in quite well with another thing that I like to do, which is another topic that I wanted to raise today, which is about building redundancy into your armies. Tournament players basically build their army on paper before they even go and buy a model. Then they go, this is exactly what I want, go out and buy it, build it, paint it, go play a game with it, maybe sell it on eBay. That is exactly the process of a lot of high-end tournament players. But as a narrative player and someone who likes to keep his models over the years and stuff, I like to make sure that all my models are completely built in with all the redundancies, so that from one game to the next I can swap out these weapon sets or these profiles. And I just wanted to get your take on it, Kyle, and everybody else's take on it. Is there anybody else out there that's done magnetizing? How does people feel about having redundancy built into it? Do they just like the idea of tournament lists and just kind of going for it?
My first was like, I love the idea of magnetizing. Like, I didn't make my Sanguinary Guard because I knew we were changing editions when I got them, and I was worried about what was going to happen in the edition change. That the change in weapon profile might very well mean I want to now play them very differently. But I also like the idea of things being WYSIWYG, but I shy away from magnetizing just because my own sort of skill level in the hobby at the moment isn't very high, and I see it's quite a daunting process.
I remember when I first started magnetizing, it took me quite a confident step to actually go, and now I'm going to do it. Yeah. And the old adage of just do it really helped me, because once you started cutting and drilling, there's no real going back from that. So yeah, it was a bit scary because of that, but actually I realised that I could just fill it in with green stuff.
Yeah. And then my other thing is I don't have the tools at the moment as well, and it's kind of like, well, I then need to go do a bit of research, make sure I've got the right tools.
Yeah.
Just have that kind of time as well, just to commit to it properly. But again, it's something I love the idea of, and even for the narrative side of things, so I can play things different. I've made them one way, and then the next campaign we go into, I'm going to go, oh, actually, I'm going to run lots of flamers in this one. All my guys have got melters. I'm going to have to just tell my opponent, well, I'm really sorry, these are melters now, not flamers.
Yeah, we've all done it.
Yeah, and it should be a thing. It's not a cheap hobby. We can't afford to have every model perfect every time, and then magnetizing goes a long way to fixing that.
It does.
I just haven't. Yeah, it's not a step I've made yet. I was looking at. I've got a Lehman Russ. Got a Lehman Russ.
The Imperial Guard tank. Yeah.
Yeah. And that I was going to use as a bit of a practice, because that's again a nice forgiving model, because I could practice just with the sponsons and things like that. So again, just being able to have a little practice before
I've done some really nice magnetizing in the past, and I've got a Storm Talon gunship and a Predator Annihilator, well, a Predator tank that it can just be set up however you want. And next week, because they're kind of away in storage at the moment, next week I'll bring them out and I'll kind of show you what it is that I've done. I didn't want to bring them out this week because I knew that I just kind of wanted to crack on with a lot of painting rather than just getting stuff out and doing showcase stuff. So we're getting ready for an intermission, so I'll just put us to the getting ready for intermission screen, seamless, like no one would ever have noticed, and just say if anyone wants to bring anything up before we go away, now is the time to do it. Melibrit has just put in a comment in the comment section, but I've just focused on this little section here.
Yeah, he's just said that he's too fickle for fixed weapon choices.
Yeah, right.
It needs to be swappable, but the problem is you've got to do it with Eldar, which is
yeah,
they're very fiddly.
It's really tricky.
I forget how big even the original Space Marines are compared to some other models, and then I was putting some guard together and painting some guard, and I was like, oh, they're tiny. Same with the Tal Fire Warriors. You forget how big they are, and now these Primaris models are that bit bigger again. They just make for quite easy painting and hobby in general.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Something I learned with a Dreadnought, because I forget that I actually did a Dreadnought as well, where all its weapons are interchangeable and has all the options. And I was really, really chuffed with how that went, and that was quite a learning curve. Is when it came to the underslung weapon on his left hand, he has either a Stormbolt or a Flamethrower, and I wanted to be able to change them. And I did use tiny little 1mm diameter pins that are about 2mm in length. Pins, magnetized pins, but inside there is a magnet that holds it to it, but it's completely unnecessary because of the location and the position of the pins. That they actually just hold it in through grip and friction, and the magnet doesn't really do anything additional to that effect at all. So if you're looking for a means to have things swapped out, especially on Eldar, and other fiddly models, is that maybe you don't have to magnetize. Maybe you just need to have a good depth of pin where it just holds it in place. One might make it spin, but two will hold it in place. So yeah, there's something. But again, next week I'll bring them along. And that's not me being unprepared. I just kind of wanted to bring it up as a bit of a subject. How do we feel about this? Because redundancy has featured in my thought processes a lot whilst I've been making my Crusade Force this week, which I'm very excited about. We'll talk more about that when we come back from our interval, which will go for now. Kyle will disappear for our interval. So now, if you need to change your paint water, which you should do, or if you need to go to the bathroom or get yourself a drink, then now is the time to do it, and we'll be back here in about 10 minutes after this jazzy interval. Another bit of jazz. Yeah, we're back. What a little jazzy intermission that is. I hope you got your paint water all cleaned up. I hope you've all bathroomed, etc. I got a cheeky glass of wine because I like to end the Friday with a glass. But not too much because I want my work to have a good level of standard. Cool. Kyle, how are you getting on with your painting? You said you've been basing, really, didn't you?
Yeah, I made a real nice just rookie error because I wasn't concentrating, and I put my paint into a water droplet I didn't see on my painting palette, and then watered my paint down and wondered why my paint was acting like ink trying to paint this model. So that took me a hot minute to work out, but got that done.
Excellent.
It's based, it's dried. I started my dry brushing now, so we'll see where we are in the next sort of 50 minutes with it.
Yeah, see what's happening there. We've got obviously an hour left of the show. We're halfway through. So let us know how you're getting on with your projects this evening. You know, have you set goals? Are you smashing goals? Are you getting stuff done, or are you getting frustrated? Is there anything that we can do to help, or is there anything you can do to help us? I mean, obviously, Kyle, don't add water to your paint if you're trying to not paint with water. I don't know how I can really make that better for you there, really. I'm going to take you over to the workbench here, where I've been working on my zone trope. It's slow going, but I've got the top of the head done with that basic first go. So what I do is I outline all the areas, like on the edges of all the carapace segments, probably a good word, isn't it? Segment. I outline them and I go around all these little kind of splits, if that's a good word for it as well, and I try to make them pointed. And then what I do is I wait for that to dry and I kind of go back over it and make sure that it's at least every line is where it needs to be, and then I do it on the backside. Now the backside's a little bit harder just because the shapes are a little bit more curved. They've got like a kind of a camber to them, is probably the best way of explaining it. So it's just about trying to get those shapes in it. It works really well on this one, so you can see on the back of this fella here that I've kind of got all the lighter greys up here, and you can see that I've kind of streaked it in, and it looks really cool. So it is worth just waiting and just being patient and applying it on there. And then when I go back over again after I've done all that, is you can see the difference between these two is I add in fake lines, like fake splits. So where all the splits are in the carapace, I accentuate them, and then I kind of add in more, and that gives it that really almost comic book sort of look, appeal, very poppy nature to it, and it really kind of stands out almost like a hairdo. So I'm not going to be able to finish the head. Maybe I will today, but probably not. But I'll certainly get all that base trace put in there. That's my effort at the moment. Mellabrook has said that he is doing the opposite of Kyle, putting the thinned paint on and then blitzing with water as needed to get my inking done. Yep, cool. Do you know what? That's fair. If you just want to get stuff done, then just do that. Slap it on, add a bit of water, move it around.
Never even thought to do that. Like, to add water as you're putting paint on.
It's not the best thing to do, but if you're staining,
Yeah.
it's certainly going to, yeah.
Very good. Again, it's another technique.
I think Mellabrook, in a conversation with Mellabrook, he was saying just the other day that for him, it's not necessarily about getting the best job done on every single miniature. He's been out of the hobby for a little while, not necessarily playing the games, but making them has been. So for him, it's about making the achievements to kind of get that reward, and that's what you were talking about a few weeks ago, isn't it? Is getting the stuff done to go, okay, I've got a force now, and now that I've got my basic 50 points or whatever it is I've got, now I can go, okay, I'm going to get the next unit, and now I'm going to really develop on this particular one. But the motivation has to come from somewhere, and that starts here now.
And I know also Mellabrook was talking about best ways to form those sort of patterns for projects, and
yeah,
that's exactly it. You're doing it. You're getting it done. It's working for you, and that kind of intrinsic reward comes out from there with it. So yeah, it works.
Now shut up and do Carl's paperwork.
Yeah. Oh, I wish it was that easy. I did it all, I would like to say. Most of the important stuff, I definitely did. Some of it might have even been on time. Maybe.
Never.
This is the only problem with only doing the one model for me at the moment, and with the technique I use to do the majority of it, just got to wait for it to dry.
Yeah,
There's
right.
not too much else I can do at the moment.
Well, do you know what? What I'll do, Kyle, is now I'll just put my zone threat down. I was just going to finish the backside of him, but if time is working in the benefit for you, I will. I'll head on over to my project with the crackle paint. So. Obviously you've got a bit of a visual delay, but that's not gonna stop us here. So the problem that I've got here, ignore the colours at the moment, and because the Grelin earth, which is this sort of textured paint here, which is like the muddy bit, if you like, or the rocky bit, I can paint it, or I can change all the colour. That's not a real problem. The real problem is with this crackle paint. What's happened is, unlike the Citadel crackle paint, is that as it's dried, it's almost over dried, and it's left really big gaps. Not everywhere, most of it I'm particularly happy with. I want big slabs, so I want big sections of the earth. That's exactly what you're after, or I'm after anyway. But the actual cracks between them, especially here where I've got the brush now, is really, really huge. And unfortunately, underneath all of this, you can see the overspray. When I sprayed the whole Tyranid yellow, I did paint over it all black a few weeks ago to kind of hide that, but as I was handling it and painting it, it wore off. And I did remember last night when I was doing the crackle paint, getting some preparation done for today, so I thought, oh, it won't matter, I'll just get a good coverage and I'm sure it'll be fine. And that was a stupid decision. However, it dried absolutely fine, and I looked at it this morning and it was really, really good, but it carried on drying throughout the day, so it dried overnight and then some more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try my best to repair this by utterly destroying it and starting again, and I'm going to try to control the cracking by applying it slightly differently, and then when I see that it's got to the level that I want it to be at, I'm going to try and seal it with a varnish, which I'm hoping will kind of trap it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we'll see. I get the idea behind it.
Yeah, but the only way, unfortunately, this did happen with my spore mines, is that I just had to scrape it all off the start again. So I've got me here, a Stanley knife. Hello, Stanley. Be careful, obviously, if you're doing this at home. I don't want to be responsible for people slicing open their thumbs, but it is just paint and it does just pop away. It does ping everywhere, so do consider the environment that you're doing it in. If you've got a brand new carpet, don't put gold paint on it. I don't put.
I just turned that rug over. It was fine. Turns out it's double-sided enough to get away with it.
Second chance carpets. So yeah, you can see now that I've kind of revealed the colour underneath, and you can see where I have painted it black, but you can also see that it's kind of faded and there's a lot of yellow coming through under it. But I'm also thinking that maybe black is too stark a colour for under the grey, so I'm probably going to mix a little bit of grey and black together and just see how that works. When I first did my test Horncorns months and months ago, maybe a couple of years ago now, for this colour scheme, I was pretty set with a small amount of crackle paint because they're 25mm bases or whatever they are, and it looked absolutely fine, and the crackle bits or the cracks didn't really come out so big. But on the bigger bases, and this green stuff world crackle paint just behaves differently, means that I've got to revisit the plan, as it were. So I have got a nice brush. I've got like a watercolours brush. It's really soft and quite big and fluffy, and that allows me to just kind of go in there and just dust it down. Basically, it's going to go all over the work surface. That's fine. I don't want it to be left on here because I'm going to put some fresh paint on there. There we go. Cool. Right. Oh dear. I moved my mat. There we are.
Just while you're doing that,
Sure.
It's just something we were just talking about. See if anybody has an ingenious solution that we didn't think of just there. I'm about to do some dry brushing in white, and one of the things I struggle with that is knowing when I've got enough paint off of the brush. My first solution is just to do it over a newspaper so I can see if I can cover it up. But does anybody else, is there just something I'm not thinking of just a really simple solution for prepping dry brush in white? Answers on a postcard in the comments once we crack on with the crackle paint.
Cracking on with crackle paint.
Stop it.
I've got it's too much. That's too much. I've got some black paint here. It's nice and thick. I don't really care about it. being the easiest to control thing, I am going to put a bit of water in it, just so it does flow from the brush. But it is a nice thick paint. It's got really good coverage. It's that really cheap stuff that I was telling you about a little while ago. Just so you can see it in the UK, Crawford and Black Acrylic Paint. We get this from a local little hobby shop. They sell all sorts of crafty stuff, and it's just a really good workhorse paint. So all I'm going to do now is, make sure that I'm in frame, is just paint the base where the crackle paint is going to be. Now, what we're not going to be able to see today is the result of that crackle paint, because it takes 2 to 4 hours to dry, and it will take probably about an hour for you to see any kind of work. So we might, at the end of the show, Kyle, get a chance to see it starting to form. But what I've got to be careful about is not letting it over dry again before I potentially seal it. And that just means basically having my airbrush on standby, which I do have.
Is it clean
Right here.
this time?
It is clean. It is clean. It's clean. Yeah, thank you.
Top tips for airbrushes.
Don't try and take the focus away from you pouring paint on your carpet. All right. Just going to basically just leave it in this room, which is nice and warm, so it will dry quite quickly. But just come down with a little bit of varnish, and just give it a quick spray, and then flush it out, because varnish really clogs it up. Now, the different varnishes do different things. They have different properties, apart from the obvious, which is the shines. So you can get your gloss varnish, which obviously is super shiny, and it's the reason it is shiny is because it's thicker. So when it goes onto your model, it basically forms a thicker shell, and is resin based, so that it has less microscopic bump surface to it, if that makes sense, so that when light hits it, it's not being bounced around and reflected all over the place. It kind of just comes back in one direction, and it's just nice and smooth. So it is the surface of choice for people applying decals and stickers and things, or even doing washes and things like that. And I did satin wash, satin varnish, which is like halfway house for gloss, and it allows you to control your washes and your shades more, and it really did help when I did this zones over here, and I was putting a little bit of the one in my hands, I was putting a little bit of Nuln oil in there, though it wasn't as saturated as I want. Was a lot easier to control because of the satin varnish. But if I was to apply a matte varnish to the crackle paint, is it going to have less of a grabbing effect than the gloss? Is the gloss going to be better at holding it? I don't know. That's territory I haven't really explored. But commonly we use varnishes to seal the work that we've done, so I'm hoping that it will have a certain amount of, well, I suppose, retarding effect to try and not slow down the drying process, but to just halt it from receding when it does dry. All interesting. Science, that's what we're doing here, Kyle.
It is, and we've had a couple comments come in there. Number one, Bellowbrook just saying that he was just talking about how much of his sort of like 50 PowerPoint course for Crusade is painted, and it's pretty much all there. But he has then just also pointed out that a lot of it is second ed models, so he's been holding on to them for a while. But
most of my Tyranids are second-hand models, which is why in a lot of cases you'll see them being a bit rough, because I didn't really do much with them. Adrian's also put, I use an old box lid when I'm dry brushing my models, so the amount of paint on that lid forms a texture all of its own and shows up if I get too much paint on my brush. That's cool. And Luke has put in it, if you're painting the base layer, then what harm will a bit of dry brushing there do?
That's a great shout, just if I think it's enough. Try on the base.
It's a good point, isn't it? As long as you're not, obviously, if your brush is wet and then you're applying water to that surface, which is going to impede your ability to dry brush. I've certainly fallen afoul on that. As you go in dry brushing, tiny little bit of moisture on your model reactivates the dried paint in your brush, and then you're just smearing it. So do be careful. Cool. Well, all I'm waiting for now is that little bit of black to dry on that base, and then I'm going to apply some crackle. Simple. But it's just good.
Sorry, is this the crackle that you used last time?
Yes, it is.
You did different amounts, didn't you?
Yeah, so crackle paint. Green Stuffwell crackle paint, one step crackle paint. This is Badlands colour. They do it in different colours. You can get Mojave, which is more of a sandy colour. This is a brownie grey colour, which I just thought out of the bottle has a nice colour. If I don't get around to being able to paint it, then it's fine. but it just behaves a little bit more differently than the Citadel stuff. The Citadel stuff is really good. I can't fault it, apart from the fact it comes in a really small jar and it's quite expensive, which is why I thought I would go and explore this stuff, because it just comes in larger and it's about a third of the price. So just trying to make sure that the hobby was affordable, really. So I just thought I'd explore that one, and I'm quite excited to see what the Crackle medium is, which is just clear and you add your paints to it to kind of make it go crackle, or you can do things like, you know, cracked ice and stuff, which would be kind of cool, right?
Yeah, very cool.
But we'll play with that when I actually get it. So what I thought we'd do while we're waiting for that to dry, Kyle, is because this is the third week running now for this opportunity, is Community Spotlight, where we might be able to see Ruben Garaby's Terminators, because we tried to do it last week and it was just a fiasco, and then the week before I actually just had computer problems that prevented me from getting in there. So without further ado, I will take you to Community Spotlight, and we should see some Terminators. Look at those, Carl. Obviously you're going to be a few minutes behind there, or a few seconds, sorry, but what we're looking at is Ruben's Space Marine Force. Ruben is the gentleman who runs the Hostile Galaxy, which is the online magazine based in the States. I've spoken about him and Hostile Galaxy loads in the past. If you want more information on them, then by all means head on over to the description of this video and you can see links aplenty to Hostile Galaxy. Really good magazine. But when Ruben isn't chewing the world up with Tyranids, he's chewing the world up with his own homebrew chapter of Space Marines, and these ones are they look like they're gold, they're painted that well, but they're actually just like yellows and browns and things like that. But what really stands out is his choice of colours, and I thought that these would be really good for you to take a look at, Carl, because this kind of plays into your court a little bit. Now, can you see them yet? Can you see them?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So what really stands out is he's got like green power weapons, which is kind of a nice focus, but then you go down to the bases and you've got this asphalt grey kind of colour with the blue grass sticking through. It just works. You know exactly what it is. We don't see blue grass here in this world, but we know exactly what it is when you're looking at it. So that is instantly an alien world. It's absolutely brilliant. And so it got a mixture of classic marine Terminators, and if you look carefully in the background, there are Primaris Marines in there as well. If we move on over, we've got a selection of photographs that Ruben put together for me a few weeks ago. Ruben, if you're watching this now, or if you get a chance to watch it on playback, I'm so sorry that I didn't get to put these out on the day, because I made him really rush around to kind of get me the photographs before the show went out a couple of weeks ago, and he really pulled through for me, and then I just had problems with the computer, and then last week was just, well, we know what last week was like. So I'm really sorry about that. So I really wanted to bring them out this week to go, look at what he did. The paintwork is absolutely phenomenal. And he's really busy. He works in a hospital, and he runs a magazine, and he runs Facebook groups, and he's got kids and a family, you know. So how he gets time to kind of do all this level of work, because the quality of painting in there is absolutely stellar. So well done, Ruben, for producing some really good models. But we've got obviously a white helmet on the fellow in the middle there, because he's the sergeant, denoting veteran status. Even though you have to be a veteran to wear that kind of armor, he is a veteran of veterans, so you know he's badass. Yeah, cool. What else have we got here? Oh, just a couple of different angles, really, kind of looking at them all. But what we really get a look at there is the bases. Like what I was suggesting earlier. Yeah, and he's not gone with any kind of colour identification on the rims of those bases. So like I was saying earlier on, he's kind of kept them black, but obviously he's put stuff on them to sell that story of where they are. These guys are on another world, and maybe Ruben's kind of got a little background story for them. But really simple, kind of tarmac-y sort of grey colour, asphalty colour, and that sort of alien grass showing through. And then if you look really carefully in this photo, really carefully, you have to be that careful, but in the background you might notice that there are some really classic looking terrain pieces, and those are homage back to the 3rd edition codexes and rulebook, where Games Workshop made their own alien cacti with polystyrene balls and cocktail sticks, and they painted them up green and red. And Ruben has always really liked them, and obviously has played the game long enough to remember them, and really wanted some. So for last Christmas, his wife, on the sly, kind of made them for him and gave them to him as a Christmas present, which I think is just lovely. And I believe that in a minute we actually get a closer look at them as well, because I think they're fantastic. But yeah, just some food for thought on colour use and on how to do your bases. I'm really up for painting the rims of the bases to kind of make the rest of the model pop. So I paint mine the actual highlights grey that I paint the carapaces on them, and that was between me and some friends kind of reviewing the scheme that I'd come up with. And I had the crackle paint on the top, which was the dark grey colours, and it was all stained to make it look like it had all the nutrients sucked out of the ground. But I wanted the rim of the base to be painted in a colour that kind of presented them, kind of lifted them up a little bit. So we decided to paint it with that bright grey colour. Ruben's obviously just gone, doesn't care about the side of the base. It is a base, it's a part of the model, and above that is the colours that excel into it. And then there's the force all together there. You've got a chaplain on the bike, you've got a librarian, there's an apothecary in there, and some generally badass looking dudes all together. A nice little force. Now I know that Ruben is a particularly good player, so I know that force there is designed to punch hard. Maybe at tournament setting, that looks like it might be a tournament list, who knows. And there, of course, in the last little couple of pictures are those cacti that his wife made. You can see the polystyrene balls and the cocktail sticks, but I just think that they're absolutely brilliant. And in the background again, you can see the old cardboard terrain, the old pop-out terrain with all the plastic holders, just as a real classic vibe, a throwback to Ruben's original Warhammer days. Nice. There we go.
The power weapons there, really, the thing that kind of sparks with me there is Skaven, the old sort of war weapons of Skaven, and the Weeping Blades and things. Yeah.
Lots of homages all thrown in at different levels. Wonderful. It's an absolutely brilliant paint scheme. So thanks, Ruben. If you get a chance to watch this and you're listening, thank you very much for supplying those photos. I told you I'd get them out there eventually, and I'm so sorry it took me this long to get them there. But Ruben Garraby from the Hostile Galaxy and his Space Marines of really cool awesomeness. So thank you very much. If you would like your any of your photos of your miniatures put up here on Community Spotlight, then just get in contact with us on Facebook or drop us a little line somewhere on our social media. We've got obviously we've got our Instagram, we've got Facebook, and we've got here YouTube as well, and I'm active all the time, so if you ever want to get in contact, just drop us a line and we'll talk about getting some photos of your miniatures up here as well. So let me take you back to the workbench, and my paint is virtually dry. I got one little spot that's just waiting there, and I'm not all that fussed about that. So crackle paint. This stuff here is quite thick and gloopy, and in the Citadel pots you just kind of scoop it out with a little tool like, where is my little palette knife thing gone? I had it here earlier. I've moved things around. A paintbrush will do, but maybe not your best paintbrush is where I was trying to go with it. Oh, there it is. So this is the little Citadel scoop. It's actually really good because it's plastic. It's got a little bit of flex in it, which is quite forgiving when you're putting it onto your models and things. I always like to make sure that it's as clean as I can make it. It is a little bit stained, but keep your tools clean. It helps a lot. Now this stuff is quite gloopy and thick, so I do recommend having a palette or a disposable surface or something that you want to kind of put it on, because when it dries it's quite grimy is the best way of putting it. I've got my little palette which is really bright under these lights, so I'll just move one away a little bit. There we go, that's better. And I'll just pop a little drop in here. Now I did find that in a lot of instances it was better to just apply this straight to the base that you're gonna put it on. So if you're putting it on your Space Marines, then you want to probably put it straight on your Space Marines. With the big base that I did for the Biovore, I just put it straight on and I just moved it around with a brush. That's absolutely fine, but it does get a little bit clogged because of its viscosity. Good word. It does get a little bit clogged in the spout, and sometimes when you're squeezing, it does have a tendency to spray, and it is coloured, so it will stain your model. So just bear that in mind. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of pick it up with this palette to show you what it's like to apply with this palette, and then I'm going to try it with a brush that I use for this sort of thing as well. So I'm just going to get a scoopy scoop, and I'm just going to pop a dollop over here. I don't have to be super precise or accurate with it in any stretch of the imagination right now. I can move it around and manipulate it. It does take a long time to dry, so that's fine. If you apply it really thin, the chances are, especially with this brand, is it won't crack. So you want it to be thick. I have seen other people on YouTube saying anything up to 1.5 millimeters. The bigger the blob, the heftier the slab when it cracks will be. So bear that in mind, and it does take a little bit of playing around with. So don't just paint it on thin. This is definitely one of those instances where that old meme of too thin coats does not apply. So that's applying it with this palette. It's quite accurate, it's quite good, but as you can see I've still got patches around it. I'm just going to pop that in my water and just going to get rid of it. Or you can just pick it up with a brush, don't use your best one, but scoop it up here. And then again, what I quite like about the brush is that you can apply it and then roll the brush and you can kind of move it around in good order. Here we go.
Jeff's just asking how much is the green stuff crackle paint?
It was really affordable. I can't remember the exact price of it now, but that was like a couple of quid. So if you buy the stuff from Citadel, it's about £4.50 or something, whatever it is, for a pot. You get the 2 different sizes now. That's the standard pot size there, and then you can buy the larger one, which is this size, and they are quite expensive. And you do get a good amount in them, but you go through it quite quickly. So I thought with this one, I think it was about £2 roughly. Yeah, so it's certainly affordable. Now I know that he's asking because he makes massive terrain features for customers on a bespoke level, so each order is always different. But they're very large in buildings, so like a little pot from Citadel, though is a very good quality crackle paint, it's not going to go very far for the amount of money they put into it. And of course, if you're making models for customers, then that cost gets translated to the customer, so it makes what the customer's buying more expensive. So that's not necessarily the best way to go. But you can buy crackle paint for general art use in massive pots, like, you know, like giant jam jar sizes. I don't know how much that sort of thing costs. I have seen demonstrations of it just today, actually, when I was kind of looking into it a bit more, of another YouTuber out there playing around different types. But the crackle wasn't as effective as this, so I was going to get some. But I saw that and I'm like, well, maybe I'll just play around with what I've got. I've got the crackle medium coming in from Vallejo, which is the 17mm pot, which is the same as these little dropper pots of paint, and that was £2 exactly. So I'll see what that's like. But obviously, again, on a larger scale, that's not going to go very far. Now, what I'm doing with this brush, Carl, I don't know if you can see really very well, is I'm just manipulating it around and I'm just pushing it up against the borders, if you like, of this soil, this other dirt feature here. And when this dries, it will crack and recede, and it will pull in towards itself, and it will expose the colour underneath, which is why I was suggesting to you perhaps like bright blue or turquoisey purple colours and things. And there we go, and it's on there, as you can see, quite thick and quite lumpy. And if I just kind of put a bit of pressure on the end of my bristles and just twist the brush, it just forces, just basically I'm wringing the brush out. Don't worry about the pattern so much on there, because that will disappear as it sort of, gravity helps it level itself out. I'm just scooping up a little bit more and just putting a bit over here. Now I know I don't want it to be too thick, because I don't want the massive slabs that leave giant cracks, but I don't want it thin either. I want medium-sized cracks on this base.
How much the sort of thickness you put on, does it compare to the Citadel?
It's about the same.
Oh, it's about the same. I just wondered if that's kind of where the disparity comes in. If it's a smaller pot, but you have to put it on as thick.
That's what I was thinking when I started playing around with this Green Stuff World one, was, you know, is it bigger because you have to use more of it? No, I was actually quite pleasantly surprised by the amounts that I didn't have to use. But I got it wrong on the first couple of cases and I was a bit disappointed with it. But then I realised that I was probably using it wrong. It's a different product and it's a different animal in its own right. So that's crackle paint. And at the end of the show, don't let me forget, Kyle, we'll come back to it and see if it started to dry. And then as it does dry overnight, I'll take some photos of it, so that you guys can see it more later on Facebook. Yeah, that's crackle paint. Cool. How's your marine coming on?
Yeah, it's I'm really struggling with my light this evening. I'm in a slightly different arrangement than I normally am, and the light position is making it even tougher. So I don't want to, as excited as I am to do it, I don't want to do more and kind of get it wrong. Just out of enthusiasm. It's a bit of a pain, but yeah, especially because he's the sergeant, and I do want to do a little bit more with him. So I'm happy I got my first couple layers down that I wanted to do. But just before I move on to the next colour, the next layer, I just want to make sure this layer is where I want it to be, and I can't quite get a good enough view on it. I know Kesman put on a great lamp that she's using to paint with, and I've been eyeing it up, and I'm just trying to justify spending a bit more money at the moment. I know we've said it before, it's super important to get hold of, and I definitely can. So I think that's going to be my next purchase. It's just going to help me not only paint but also paint during the shows as well.
I think it's one of the three things that you need besides your model, and that is paintbrush, paint, and a light. I think it's part of that triumvirate of things that you need. Don't despair.
I'm happy again with the technique.
That's good. What colours do you use? Because you obviously start with a black base.
Yeah, black base, and then I dry brush a grey. Then I like quite heavily dry brush with that grey. Yeah. And I'll do a lighter dry brush with the white, so just picking out that finer dry brush with that. And then I go over with the Magnetising red, again quite a lot of it, covering a lot of the kind of area with that dry brush. And I go over with a Troll Slayer orange as a finer dry brush. And again, because I'm dry brushing, I don't get that same vibrancy in the colours that you would if I was kind of just applying it normally.
Yeah, right. Because Troll Slayer is really bright orange as well, isn't it?
It is, and it doesn't come across like that with the dry brushing. It's quite nice. And it just adds that. It just gives it that real noisy. That there's like a big noise to the painting, I find with it.
Was that something that you took a chance on when you were first going? Okay, I'm gonna use this paint, and hopefully it won't be too bright. Or did you know that it was going to give you the results that you wanted?
I'd seen like different tutorials, if that makes sense. I've dropped in, watched a few things here and there, and kind of put it together from that, and it's worked really well.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Red's a colour that I tried doing in the past because I've painted a red terror, which I've stripped now, and I've also painted Techmarine in the past, and I really struggled with the highlighting of red because you think that you would go just lighter saturation of red, which goes pink, which when you finished makes your model look pink, which isn't necessarily what you want. Orange is the way to go. Orange is the way to go when you're highlighting red. Yeah, it took me a long time to work that out.
Yeah, it works nicely. My last Blood Angels that I did in a different style, based in black, Magnetising red all over, and then I used I think it was called Kendall Flame, maybe something like that, and it's a dry brush specific paint, so it's nice and thick.
Oh, okay.
And so it works.
That's a Citadel paint, isn't it? Because they do dry brush specifics. Yeah,
that's it. And I just whole layer of that all over the model, and then I think I used the crimson ink, and that was it, and that was the look.
Crimson's a really nice. It's a really nice stain.
Yeah.
It has a lot of applications.
I think looking back, if I was to do it again, I would do it very similar. I just wouldn't be as liberal with the ink.
Okay.
I was a bit disappointed on how shiny they came out. When I was using that.
Yeah. The washes can have a shine to them, and I know that they actually do supply glossy versions of them. So the Null Noil, you can get it in a gloss as well. My hand just stuck to my cutting mat, and then I just slid everything over. I think I may have just ruined my model. I haven't. Yay! Phew! One of those things.
And I'd like to use maybe some pin lining before that final wash as well. So when that other wash goes over the top, you kind of add. You've already got that sort of deeper shadow just at the recesses.
That's nice. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Especially if I'm not going to be as liberal with that sort of crimson as well.
Yeah, I do really like pin washing, because it's one of those techniques I picked up doing tanks. Is that it's one of the standard sort of realistic approaches is pin washing, and I've really gotten into it. And that's some really good effects from it as well.
Nice. I've got some interesting units to paint next, and I've got them, which is nice, and they're on my shelf waiting. They're built and ready to go. I've got 10 Death Company and 5 Sanguinary Guards. I know we've talked about the Sanguinary Guards, and I'm pretty much there. I just want to trial my paint scheme for them now, for my Assault Marines.
Yeah.
But the Death Company, I'm struggling because it's all black.
Because it's black, isn't it?
I've spoken on this show, and I've been given some really good advice, and I'm looking forward to putting that into play. But I just want them to pop, because they're such an incredible unit. They really should be sort of a centerpiece to the Force, and they've got some nice detail on the models that'll be in different colours. But yeah, I just worry about them just being black. But yeah, just using that grey, I think will come out quite nicely.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I know that there are different types of black as well, so you could like do a base black of one particular colour, and then you could do a dry brush of another black, maybe like a dark grey. Jeff's putting in here several comments here. Art crackle paint ain't deep enough. Oh yeah, that's going back to the crackle paint subject, that the stuff that you can buy in the big crackle paint pots, the art supplies, like he says, doesn't crack deep enough. But the stuff that I'm using here, it looks okay. Yes, it is. It's a really good paint, and you get quite a lot of it as well. How much? 60 millilitres, or if you work in fluid ounces, 2.02 fluid ounces for the Green Stuff World. And he says pin wash, but this is an S, so pinoir works well with dry brushing. Yes, it does.
That's really cool. It's interesting.
Yeah, pin wash. Oh, he's corrected himself. Pin wash. No, I like pinoir. It sounds like a martial art.
I thought it was more of a wine. Oh, that's pinoir.
Oh, yeah. Oh, pinoir Grigio.
I've got an iron up bits. I'd already bought some bits for a captain model, and they've been sat around for a little while. But now I'm going to run a lieutenant in my Crusade force. I'm going to take them for my lieutenant model instead.
Are you going to do classic Marines lieutenant, or are you going to do Primaris Marines lieutenant?
I'm going to do first one.
Ooh.
Because you can't give Primaris characters jump packs. And that just doesn't work for me. They've got to be quick. They've got to be quick.
That's fair. I quite like some of the character Marines that are coming out in the Primaris, but I do like the old classic, or like you're calling them Firstborn. They're just what I know and grew up with, and I like them. I like a mixture of both. I don't want them to be phased out. I'm quite happy to have both of them.
Yeah, it's also nice. There's just such a huge array of bits.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen the other bits that I want to finish it now. It's going to have the Teeth of Terror, which is a Space Marine generic relic.
Isn't that a chainsword?
It's a chainsword, yes. I've just been looking through some chainswords that look relic-y, and it's actually the Sanguinary Priest, which is a Blood Angels model anyway. That chainsword looks fantastic for it. So I will, I'll see if I can get hold of that through a bits company or eBay or something like that. And that's going to be a real sort of centerpiece model, so the pin washing might go really nice with some dry brush in there, just to make it stand out that bit more.
That'd be really good. I'd be really interested to see how the effects come out.
Yeah.
When I was building my force over the last couple of days, because this is one of the reasons I haven't done a lot of painting this week, is I've just been having some real late nights with the rulebook and Tyranny Codex. I've been using Battle Scribe, and I've been, I found editable, or actually my housemate found editable Crusade forces. So I've been making my force, and I'm really happy with the force that I've built. But now I've got to that requisition point now where I get to
more character.
Yeah, it gives it some real flair. And I've also, thank you very much, Adrian, for posting up on Facebook after last week. Right at the end, we were talking about, before we got rudely cut out, we were talking about the 3 books that I missed at the end of the Primarch release, just before 9th was dropped. Obviously, they brought out the Psychic Awakening books. Adrian put up a photo of those 3 books. What I didn't realise is that they brought out more Psychic Awakening books probably since then. I've just not been in contact with the hobby at all, really. 40k really, while I went off and did tank stuff. I found the Blood of Baal, I think it was called, which is the Psychic Awakening book for the story of the Blood Angels fighting against the Tyranids, when we pretty much killed you, but you had to get Chaos Gods to help you out or something.
You didn't have to. Your own volition.
Whatever.
They don't even have nipples on their armour, so we're not the same.
Okay, cool.
Big difference. Big things, Blood Angels. I don't even see the models. They're weird, they love it.
Anyway, so in a book, because it features heavily Blood Angels and Tyranids, they have a lot of expansion to both of the army sets. And there's just so much more than what the Codex originally kind of gave us as an army choice. They've got adaptive physiology, which is just basically you don't have to take warlord traits if you don't want to. You basically give the army this kind of general buff, and you can basically choose two, or you choose one and you apply it wherever you want to in a Crusade force as it would be a warlord trait, but you're not having a trait for your warlords, because it seems a bit weird to have that with Tyranids. Is, you know, the commanding presence of a giant creature. It's just a bit weird. So they give you these really cool alien abilities, and they are absolutely brilliant. They are really inventive. They sound really cool and terrifying, which is what you want. And they've also got additional bio relics, because like Space Marines have their relics, as to every other army, but Tyranids have bio artifacts, which is like that one random mutation thing that kind of comes along every now and then, and it's kept by the Hive Fleet because it's really effective, and then people kind of tell stories about it. And in the Codex, they're all a bit rubbish, and there's only like one or two that I ever really use, and I don't really ever bother with them. But in I think it's called the Blood of Baal, all of their choices are really good, and there are a couple in there where I'm like, I will take that one. I like the idea of a semi-sentient acid that melts you down, a little bit like the blood scene in The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, where he probes the blood in the petri dish and it kind of jumps up and runs away. There's a slime that acts like that almost, and it kind of charges towards you and finds its way into the weak points of your armor or through orifices in your skin or whatever, and then melts you. And I like that. That's brilliant. That's what I want. And there's just other features in there as well, like the Warlord trait one. You actually take two and combine them, I think. And I'm like, yeah, just trying to find the right thing for me is what I'm trying to do now. So yeah, we've got some great opportunities to really make
customize.
Yeah,
really nice. And
that's what you were saying before we went. So what you were saying before we went live is it reminds you of a time when 40k sung to you as a customizable game, so you could make it more your own.
And I mean, Warhammer Fantasy was fantastic for that, and that's what I love so much about it.
That's what got you into it, wasn't it, fantasy?
Yeah, and it's why I didn't make the jump to Age of Sigmar, because it just lost that.
Yeah, fair.
Lost that ability to customize so much, and it was what I absolutely loved. I've never liked named characters in any of the games. I've always preferred making my own. For me, that's half the fun. I've always wanted better mechanics in place so I can give those characters cool traits and just a little bit more than what you kind of normally get on the paper, if that makes sense. So
I know what you're saying.
Crusade's a great way to do it, and I really like the fact that you are potentially going to start using some warlord traits and relics that you might not normally use, because it's about the narrative rather than, is this the best trait? Is this going to give my army the best benefit?
Well, I was almost taken out of my comfort zone when I was looking at the elements that allow you to tailor make your own Hive Fleet, which is essentially the army, if you like. I normally play Jormungandr, which is Norse serpent god that killed Loki, and that name is taken because that particular Hive Fleet excel at burrowing. So wherever you move on the table, you always get the advantage of cover because you're using burrows unless you charge or you advance. So I always liked that. It was really good. The only reason I chose Burrow for two reasons is the colour scheme was very close to what I just decided to paint, but I also just like the idea of burrowing, so when I saw the paint scheme was quite close I was like, yeah, sold, and I've rolled with it ever since. But now I'm looking at all these different Hive Fleet options and I can basically make my own. I'm suddenly put in that uncomfortable position where I step away from something I'm very used to make my own thing up again, and the options are bountiful. There's a lot of things that I can do if I want to. It's going to be really interesting.
And I really like that they've done that across the board. They've done it with Space Marines, so you can have your sort of own chapters, which is fantastic. I've always loved that idea. Imperial Guard regiments. Yeah, they've just removed that restriction a little bit and just opened it back up to people being able to have that bit more freedom, which is fantastic. I really do enjoy it. And that's what I'm looking forward to with Crusade. I'd love to see a rule sort of like no-name characters, because the whole point is you're making a name for the characters you're taking, and they get a lot of chance to gain a lot more abilities.
I agree. Don't get me wrong, I like the name characters because I'm sold on the lore. I like all the stories and I like these people, and I have used named characters before, but like you're saying, the games are an opportunity, especially in these narrative crusades, for you to make your own characters, and they don't have to be heroes either. They can just be the rank and file sergeant of this particular squad, particularly good, or this one guy, I've marked him out because he performed so well in a previous game, and then he gets killed in the next one, and then you mourn that guy's loss.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So it will happen. This is a viable option. We will get some.
To anybody out there as well, like, I'd like to know what your feelings are on that as well. Do you have named characters? I know that my housemate and I, he plays Eldar. We have played Warhammer since 2nd edition, so the kind of story that you put with your armies for all of those years that we've been playing, since 96, 94 maybe, then they're going to be intertwined. So his Eldar have been decimated by the Tyranids and I've been halted by the Eldar. But, you know, what are your characters? Who are they? Do you have things like that, or do you just like to play a game? You know, because it's for everybody, right?
We've already, I know, me and Luke have been talking. Hopefully, I can get back to play a game in the near future. And the idea of just a Smash Captain going up against a Saint, we may even come up with sort of a custom mission with a set objective to kind of help aid that idea of a Death Company Smash Captain going up against a Saint of the Sisters of Battle. Because again, it'd make a great narrative. What a great sort of centerpiece to a game.
Why would you? Why would you go up against the Saint of the Imperium if you're an Imperial Space Marine? Why?
Well, because if they're Death Company, they just can't help themselves.
You're in the wrong place at the wrong time, lady.
Yeah, exactly that.
Or is she?
It's like that. Also, I'm going to keep swinging my arms, and if you happen to get in the way, that's not my fault. It's always something I've actually talked about that with narrative, going into the narrative. How do you explain why two Space Marine loyalist factions are going against each other, or a Space Marine, Space Marines are going up against Imperial Guard and things like that? And some of the games I've played, there have been some really nice ways to explain it, but sometimes you can feel like you're shoehorning a little bit.
Yeah, you can, and often that just kind of says, hey, this is a game, just play it and have some fun. But if you're a narrative player like us, then you kind of need a little bit of reason for it, don't you? And the one that is commonly played is that you both find the other one to be a traitor for whatever reason. Now, if you're Blood Angels, there's the obvious one here, isn't it? Is stop drinking people's blood. What's wrong with you? But they keep that to themselves. So maybe
don't tell people that.
Yeah, but maybe someone's found out and you need to go and shut them up.
I mean, it's not hard to guess with the long fangs and walking around with chalices of blood.
Yeah.
Being covered in blood drops.
But they're supposed to be so nice people that they just let them get away with it. He had wings, for goodness sake. You know?
Yeah. Apparently, music might just be getting a touch loud.
Is it really?
Adrian's gone with, his Berserker Force's name, Cards Angels of Blood, for a reason. And the Thousand Sons is led by Magnus, and I can never pronounce that
Ahriman.
There we go.
Ahriman.
Yeah, I just can't wait. Can't wait to get some Crusade games on the go. I'm trying to help my housemate get back into the hobby, so we can just have a little house narrative campaign on the go. Because why not? You only need two people, and each time you play each other, you'll both get to progress your forces and time this narrative.
And it just maintains the hobby, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. I'll keep you updated as well, see how I go on it.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I know that like throughout the week that I've just been throwing photos or of the rule book and whatever to you. Go like, here's this little bit of the Crusade force that you need to see, and been talking to you about what it is that I've been designing. But at the same time, I'm trying not to give you too much so that I don't spoil the surprise. But I think by the time we get around to seeing each other, you're going to know everything anyway, so whatever.
And I mean, and it's one of those things like the rosters are there for everybody to see in a Crusade. It's not about.
Oh yeah, no, I know that. I just thought that by the times we get to actually fight, you can go like, oh no, look at that. But actually, probably by that time, you'd have seen it.
And, and the standard rule that I think has to be in place forever now that we're doing this show is everything has to be painted. It's not just a case of
but the points do go a long way though, don't they?
Yeah, they help.
They really do. So for next week then I'm going to be bringing along my haul, my bounty from this recent shopping foray, and I'm looking forward to playing around with some various different products, but the one I'm really looking forward to having a go with, for no reason other than just I think it's going to be cool, is the fluorescent paints, because I want to do something with fluorescent paints for making acid bases in the future. I've got a pretty good recipe and it works. Unfortunately, the colours I needed for the acid bases were all sold out no matter where I looked. But I have got a fluorescent orange, fluorescent red and a yellow, which I'm going to try and do some really cool, stark and vibrant acid lava bases with. So, if anyone's got any experience with working with fluorescent paints, I'd like to know, because I just think it'll be kind of cool, and maybe we can share some ideas and results and stuff. That'd be awesome. Excuse me. And also, if you've got any ideas on what you'd like to see me paint next, I said that next week I'm going to do some 50mm tanks with Kyle, but beyond that, I've got a whole list of different things that I can paint, and I'm happy to paint any of them because the stuff that I've got waiting. You have to sit here and watch me kind of paint while you do your stuff, and if you want to see me doing something very specific, then let me know. If you pop over to Facebook, I've put up a recent post in bright orange so you can't miss it, and just in the comment section is a list of things that I've kind of got waiting on the side. So if you have a particular favourite that you'd like to see me paint, then I'm more than happy to go along on there. I've got a couple of suggestions already from Kesslin, from Jeanette, so yeah, if you've got an opinion, drop it in there and let me know. Otherwise, I'll just carry on with what I want to do as and when I go. But if you've got an idea, go see. And we're pretty much at the end of the show.
I was going to say, that's a real nice way to kind of...
Yeah, I've had the programme beside me today. It's really helped. So a little bit of a look on what I've achieved today then. So I've started putting in those kind of fake lines, if you like, and you can compare it to the first one that I did, which is here. So you can see that I've still got some ways to go, and this is only the head on that particular model anyway. But yeah, it really sets it off. And this little detail brush, even though I was saying like detail brushes really should be, especially for doing things like eyes and whatnot, it should be quite big, but go down to a point like this one. The reason for it is that the belly of the bristles, the bulge, if you like, the thickness of it holds the paint, so that when it gets to doing the contact for doing eyes or small details, that you've got a lot of paint that's ready to kind of flow off. But this particular one is sable. It's got a lot of bounce to it, so it retains its shape really well. It's super soft. It doesn't hold an awful lot of paint, so I have to put paint into it quite a lot, but it's really, really good for doing all of these delicate lines. So what I do is I outline everything in the standard edge highlight way, which this brush isn't ideal for because it's so thin, but you use the outside edges of it and you just kind of run it along to get that edge. And then once you're done, you might have seen me doing it, is you just kind of do these thin lines, and once you've got one brush stroke on there, it looks like a line that doesn't it stands out a little bit, but then just at the base of it, I just kind of draw it in a little bit so it's a bit more rounded, and then that really kind of gives you that slightly triangular look to it, and it really finds a place on there, and I'm really happy with it. I'm getting faster. It doesn't look like I've done a lot tonight, but actually that's quite a bit, and it's more than I thought I was going to get done. So going back to what we were talking about earlier on, is setting achievable goals. I'm really happy with my progress. How did you achieve tonight, Kyle?
Yeah, not bad. After my little mistake with getting the black on the model and putting it straight into water to start with, yeah, the dry brushing's gone quite nicely. Again, I just want to make sure before I move on to my final sort of orange dry brush that I'm happy with the coating of red I've got, or if it needs another going over. So it should be, hopefully, by next week that whole squad should be done, and I should be moving on to something different. Well, I'm moving on to hopefully a tank next week. So that should hopefully put that squad to rest. And that'll be another one ready for the Crusade.
How many squads have you got done now? How many units?
Painted, just 2.
Oh.
Two painted.
And this is the last one of that unit?
Yeah, last model of that unit.
Excellent. Oh, it's really exciting, isn't it? He's got units done. He's got units done.
Yeah, and then hopefully even a character maybe soon.
Oh, that's exciting stuff. Yeah. Maybe you can name that character as a part of a community effort here on the Painting Club. I know. I was very happy to find out in that book, The Blood of Baal, that it actually has a Tyranid High Fleet naming generator on there, and you roll a couple of dice to see what it comes up with. And I came up with the Nightmare Shroud, which I was pretty happy with. And that was about a third generation attempt because some of them were a bit poor, like the Dusty Bookcase or something like that. Like, that's not really what I wanted, but the Nightmare Shroud was a good name for my army. Like, yeah, I like that. It's kind of cool. Have we got any more comments going in the comment section here? Jeff, letting me know that the music's getting loud again. Don't know what it's doing that. Really sorry, but let me know and I'll adjust it as we go. Adrian's put, I do my Berserker force is named Carnavic. Oh yeah, you've already read that one out. Led by Araman. Marines versus Guard. Look no further than the Purges after the first war for Armageddon. Yeah, cool. Not really familiar with it at all, but there seems to be a lot of reasons as to why you would want to narratively go to battle against someone of the same faction. And I think that a lot of the video games like Dawn of War have it written in there that you have Space Marines and you have the Imperial Guard, and the reason for it was you're here and it's our right to claim this territory in the name of our Emperor. So if you stay here, then be it at your own peril. And you're like, yeah, sounds a bit arrogant, but whatever. Okay, cool. And that always felt like to the whole community shoehorny. But the game was great fun, so no one cared. You know,
I've just got to say, just when you said, oh, we could name him as a community effort, I just want to say, after the history of things being named through community efforts, it's not normally a great idea. And before I even managed to say it, Adrian's put in, what about Bloody McBloodface? Which is exactly why we won't be opening it up to a community effort for naming.
What you could do is come up with a list of suggestions and go choose from this sheet, and Bloody McBloodface would not be on there. Because being your opponent, I would have something to say. Farty McFartpants. Yeah, cool. I just thought I'd show you before we go and finish the show what the crackle paint looks like at this stage. Yes. It is not starting to crackle, but it is starting to congeal, and it looks like mud, frankly, which is an interesting thing for paint because it shouldn't behave like that. But if we just pop over to the workbench, I will show you, and you can see that it is starting to go slightly matte. Now if I touch that, we will leave a fingerprint in there. I can still move it around, but it is starting to dry, so it starts to go crumbly after this now. So yeah, not showing any signs of crackling, but you can see like a pattern effect where I've applied it, where the brush has kind of left strokes or blobs, etc. in there, and those will help kind of create the pattern. It will look completely different when it is dried, and I will update you with photographs of that. And I'm going to try to seal it with a varnish, and then afterwards I can make that matte, I can colour it, do whatever I want with it, and hopefully I'll be able to stop it from cracking too much. But if it does, hopefully the colour underneath is a colour that better suits it, rather than it being that manky yellow colour that just looked like overspray and hadn't done a job good enough. So yeah, that's crackle paint, and yeah, hopefully it's giving you some inspiration for your Marines. Cool. Anyway, it's been a great show, Kyle. Thank you very much for coming along and saving it from last week. It's been fun. It's been chilled, and we've had a really good time with the live chat there as well. We've had a lot of support coming in there. Before we go, Mellabrook has suggested the name Hypoxus the Anemic Whirlwind. please call him the Anemic Whirlwind. That's it. He is now called that. That is his name, all right?
No, nobody says that to his face.
Gets away with it.
Definitely what it's called behind his back.
Teeth of terror. Oh, Hypoxus the Anemic Whirlwind. Brilliant. Right. Well, anyway, before we get too carried away, we've come to our 2-hour conclusion. It's been a great show. Thanks for having us there this evening. And remember, if you like what we do, then please hit the subscribe button. Hit the little bell icon so that you always get notified of when we go live or when I go live. And suggest us to your friends and kind of get the word circulating out there. Share the word. Share the word. I'm starting to lose it now. And hopefully we will see you again next week. My name's been Danny. I've had a cracking time. Yes, I point to the right side. He's been Kyle.
Yes. And yeah, been great. Thank you very much, guys. See you next week.
And we'll see you again soon. Take care for now, and until next time, keep painting your miniatures. See you soon. Absolutely seamless, Kyle. Absolutely seamless.
It's when we get it on the show back, and actually we froze for most of it. And...
Oh, God damn it!
Yeah, so